The year is 1969. You're Stan Lee. A man dressed like this approaches you. He wants the rights to Spider-Man. Pretty simple request, right? But the rights aren't yours to sell. You tell him that. What's his response? I'll make my own Spider-Man. Now here's a question. When did Spider-Man first show up in live action? Before Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, you had the Japanese Spider-Man. Before him, there was the CBS Spider-Man. Before that, in 1974, there was the Electric Company's Spider-Man.
Well, if it isn't the wall-crawling creep. Here's one wall you'll never crawl, you red and blue buffoon! He's so dumb, he's trying to eat a hot dog with no mouth!
A character who didn't speak. But the earliest speaking version of Spider-Man came about through the efforts of amateur filmmaker Donald Glut. At age 9, Glut liked 4 things: dinosaurs, monsters, superheroes, and movies, something every kid likes. But when his parents gave him a film camera, he made the logical choice to start filming his ideas. He started simple with some dinosaur movies, but by the time he was 25, Donald had filmed over 40 short films and gained some measure of fame throughout film magazines. He was famous enough to have 2 B-movie Western staples, Ken Duncan and Roy Barcroft, show up in his films. Donald even managed to snag Glenn Strange to star in his movies. Glenn Strange was famous for playing Frankenstein in the Universal horror movies, where he acted alongside Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, and Abbott and Costello. So what kind of movies was young Donald filming that were good enough for the Hollywood folks to star in? Let's see, we have Frankenstein Meets Dracula, Revenge of Dracula, Teenage Werewolf, Teenage Frankenstein, Teenage Frankenstein Meets the Teenage Werewolf, I Was a Teenage Vampire, I Was a Teenage Ape Man, Return of the Teenage Werewolf. It's important to note that Donald was a teenager when he made these movies. But he wasn't content with just making teenage monster movies. He eventually began to make his own superhero fan films. He started out with such movies as Captain Marvel, Batman and Robin, Captain America, Superman vs. the Gorilla Gang, which apparently did not star Superman battling a group of criminal gorillas, but instead a human gang with 1 gorilla. Very disappointing. But in 1969, Donald decided to make the jump to the big leagues. Armed with a homemade costume from his mother, Donald drove up to New York to meet with the Stan Lee. He might have been an amateur, but if he succeeded in getting the rights to the web-slinger, he was going to film a TV pilot that he could scale up to a TV series. But like I said in my opening, Donald wasn't able to buy the rights. He returned home dejected, but then his friend had an idea.
Oh, you should make a film. Look, you got the costume and everything. It's like Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. Hey, we got the costume, we got the barn, we can have the show right here.
With no budget and only his passion for movies and what he learned from filmmaking, Donald set out to film an 11-minute short film that could take Spider-Man from the comic book pages to the big screen. But how do you film the stunts and powers of Spider-Man when you have no budget and long before modern CGI and editing? You turn to cheap, goofy, practical special effects. Wall crawling? Easy. Turn the camera sideways and crawl along the floor. If it was good enough for Adam West, it was good enough for Donald Glut. And when Donald was too tired to crawl himself, stop-motion photography on a Spider-Man action figure. Web swinging? Just chuck that same figure across the camera with a little bit of forced perspective. The spider webs? Just throw a net back and forth, maybe in slow motion. But the coolest effect that Donald used was to simulate electric attacks. He physically scratched the film strip in order to achieve the lightning bolt effect. This is the coolest effect in the movie, right behind the explosions.
Tough luck.
But what kind of movie actually resulted from this work? Well, Donald filmed this in 1969, just 7 years after Spider-Man debuted, so readers were already familiar with characters like Gwen Stacy, Green Goblin, and Mary Jane Watson. But rather than adapting an existing story, Donald went ahead and wrote his own original script. Meet Dr. Lightning.
You're no father of mine.
Then the world shall pay for this.
After being disfigured in a lab accident, he's gone mad and wants to destroy the world, and also the Daily Bugle, who called him mad. I too would have gone mad if I was a discount Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Lightning's daughter goes to the Daily Bugle, armed with info to expose her dad's crimes, because she thinks that doing so will cure his madness. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but this was the 1960s where lobotomies were still a mental health cure, so I think we can cut her some slack. Unfortunately, she's kidnapped by Rakoff, her father's masked henchman.
Hold it!
It's Rakoff, my father's henchman.
Spider-Man tracks down and battles Dr. Lightning in order to save the unnamed daughter, which results in Dr. Lightning killing Rakoff when Spider-Man uses him as a human shield.
Now that's going just a little bit too far.
Lightning tries to run off in a car, but when Spider-Man snags it, Lightning blows himself up rather than be caught.
You won't take me alive. I'll cheat the hangman yet.
Tough luck.
And this is how Spider-Man delivers the news of his death.
Your father's dead, but you're safe, and so is the world.
But amid the stilted dialogue, bad overdubbing, and odd acting, the strangest thing is the main location of the movie, Bronson Canyon, a staple of Western science fiction. Spider-Man tends to be an urban hero, but rather than deal with the hassle of a film in the city, the crew took to this quarry outside Los Angeles, as one of them had the gate keys needed to enter. This is to the film's detriment, as the result is an empty movie that fails to capture the city setting that Peter Parker is known for. In fact, there's no hint of Peter at all. The story is just 11 minutes of superhero action that feels more like a one-issue comic book plot than a TV pitch. But I don't hold it against the film too much, since this is a low-budget fan film from the mind of a dreamer. So what exactly happened after this? Marvel and Stan Lee would eventually sell the rights to CBS, who filmed a TV movie that became the pilot of a 13-episode TV show. Donald would go on to be hired as a comic book writer, starting off with Vampirella before writing for Marvel, including some issues of Captain America and Thor. In 1977, he even managed to write a Spider-Man story, although it was a what-if issue that explored what would happen if someone besides Peter was bitten by the radioactive spider. Spoiler alert, they all die. Donald would even write for some cartoons later on, including Transformers, G.I. Joe, DuckTales, and in 1981 he would write for both Spider-Man and Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Not bad for the man who couldn't buy Spider-Man. Donald eventually made the leap to being a dinosaur documentary director and then to movie director, starting off in 1996's Dinosaur Valley Girls. And continuing on to some more movies that I don't think I can mention here. It's a little funny, though, how his career came full circle from making low-budget dinosaur and horror short films to making low-budget dinosaur and horror exploitation films. And in between you had the period where he wrote about costumed do-gooders. Donald Glut. Now that's a man who followed his dream. Let's hope that the next guy to write a Spider-Man movie can match Donald Glut's love of the hero. So I really wanted to end this on a happy note, but it turns out last year Donald Glut was the victim of identity theft, and he lost almost $80,000 that he's now on the hook for with his bank. So, if anyone wants to donate, I'll leave a link for his Indiegogo fundraising campaign down in the description below. I also found out that he wrote the novelization for The Empire Strikes Back, which is a odd little tidbit of his history.